All right, welcome back to Roll Talk to a Spirit Show. Now this is our next guest. I just mentioned about the guests, how many guests I had on my show the past 2 years. So basically, overall, I had 49 guests on my show. Now this guest is my 50th guest on my show in the past 2+ years. My 50th guest. So let's welcome Miss Michele Abraham Montgomery. How are you today?
I'm good, good. Thank you so much, Levine, for inviting me today.
Yes. How's your week?
Busy. So, I work for the school district, so I'm still, working from home remotely. So it's been very interesting.
So let me ask you that. So how has this pandemic impacted you in terms of transitioning from teaching at school to home? How has that transition been for you?
So my role is a family peer specialist. So I work with families that have children that have behavior challenges.
Right.
So from home, it's kind of the same, just making the calls instead of being able to go out and make home visits. I'm doing a lot, over the telephone and doing, well checks and seeing how they're doing, still providing resources and different things like that for a family. So
wonderful. So let's go back, way back here. So who is Michele Abraham Montgomery? Who are you?
Wow. I wear a lot of hats. A lot of hats I'm finding. And it's very interesting because, as you know, April is Autistic Awareness Month.
Right.
And next month is Mental Health Month. And
ooh, yes.
Yes, so I can identify with both months. I have my son is 26 and he has Asperger's syndrome. So that was a challenge within itself, learning about a new word coming into my family's life and also how to relate, how to deal with it, how to cope with it, how to maintain, and learning who I am. What am I supposed to do with this word and why it was given to me? And even with that, wow, I learned a part of myself that I didn't know. I actually learned that I was stronger than I thought I was. I had to learn how to develop my voice very fast. Because I was young and I looked younger, people talked at me and not to me. So I had to, find my voice while I was finding out what was this new word that had just came and embarked upon our lives.
So what was your reaction to that, and how was it again for you transitioned to that once you found out where it was? What was that like?
So autism is very peculiar because there's no face to autism.
Right.
And with that, meaning that I can't look at you and tell that you have autism.
Right.
And with autism, when you've seen one person with autism, you've seen one person with autism because every individual person has a different, unique style of autism to go with them. So there's no handbook, or you can't go by to say my child had autism, so this is what you do. You kind of have to, whether it's through support systems, your spiritual support system, as definitely have to tap into that. Whatever that may be, you have to have a support system in order to be successful, because when these type of words come into your lives, they'll either bring you together or tear you apart.
That's the truth. So as you were going through this, you say you learned about yourself. As you were going through autism and learn about your son having autism, what did you learn about yourself? What parts of you grew for this, and what knowledge you gained from this?
Well, growing up, we went to church, and my father, was a deacon. He also has a degree in ministry, and he went to a Bible college. So my father had a lot of Bible knowledge, and he had always said to me that it was his responsibility to introduce me to God, but mine to have a relationship. And I never understood what that meant until autism came into my life, and until I realized that there were some things that people just could not do or could not move things to make it happen for me. And that's when I learned how important my relationship with God was. I learned about my relationship with God and how I could tap into that and how just to grow it.
You said something that's very important. It just saw that caught that your dad was responsible initially to God, but for you to have a relationship with Him. So that I think that was very, very important because that's very important because a lot of teachers come and teach us about God, but it's more up to us to accept it and learn from what they said and apply it to our life. You know, that's very, very important. And in this thing you had took a lot of faith, a lot of prayers, and a lot of sacrifice, and a lot of times that you got to work on yourself, educate yourself about this thing and what to do. So, was he born with autism, or did you find out through as he got older?
So it appeared to me that he was developing on task up until it seemed like to me after he had got his measles, mumps, and rubella, his MMR shot, and it was something about that shot, something about after that where everything just went blank. He just got to stare, and he just started doing things differently that I at first, you know, there were a lot of different diagnoses that came into play before autism actually entered our life. And so we have found out that he was hearing impaired, and so we learned sign language and different things like that. And he ended up having to get a myringotomy, which is getting tubes in his ear. So he had got that procedure, and after that, and he still wasn't talking. So that's what really opened our eyes to say something is not right because he's still not talking.
Were you talking before this tube thing, or was it
after he got the tubes?
Oh, after. Okay.
He still was not talking.
Okay.
So once he could start hearing, and we thought that might have been the reason for the delay, and he still wasn't. He still was not developing on task on time.
So as you was going for this, the process of learning autism, what was the major breakthrough that for you that said in the progress early that someone was okay, we can deal with this. We can deal with this. Okay, what was a breakthrough that sign that said how we can move forward? Okay, still a lot of work, but so we can move forward.
Wow. So actually, I can't even say that actually happened because autism changes. You know, throughout the gestational development stages in his life. So even as a child, he acted one way, but then once he entered adolescence, it changed and it looked different. And now as an adult, it looks different. So he went through different stages. At one point, he had developed motor tics, which is also in the Tourette's family. Okay. So his head would move. And from what I was told, they were telling me that had to do with anxieties. And so we thought that maybe that was him transitioning from an adolescent into an adult, and maybe the stresses of that what might have brought on the motor tics, but he doesn't have that now. So it looks different, to different people in different phases and different stages.
So, wow, that's incredible that you're still saying that's incredible that he's now 26 now. Yes. Yeah, so his voice now is speaking on different events and stuff like that. So, what made you get more involved with autism? I know you just your son, but when I see you changing his voice and now you advocate for this. What made you just continue this fight for autism?
So, as I had stated earlier, by me being young and looking younger, and people talking at me and not to me, I knew that I had to develop my voice. And at that time, I lived in Southwest Philadelphia, and there was no type of organizations or programs available for me. So I ended up having to go out to the Northeast. Is that out where Lehigh Avenue is and Allegheny?
North Philly.
Okay, so out in North Philly. Okay. And I'm sorry, I don't know North Philly. So I ended up going out there to a Hispanic organization, and they taught me, it was called HUNY, and they taught me state and federal laws for individuals with special needs. Okay. And from that, and I just seen how I was able to talk and stand up for myself, and how people started listening, and I really just felt like this was something that I wanted to empower other parents to be able to do. Because at my lowest point, I felt like I never want another person to feel the way that I do. And I just prayed to God, God, if you help me to get through this, I promise that I will empower other parents so they'll never have to hit or feel the way that I feel that day.
So use your testimony as strength, as purpose for you to get more parents educated on what's going on and find out how they can do things now that you didn't learn as you going through that. So wow, that's a lot.
So I became an advocate, and I started, doing that. And then it went as far as at the schools. I became a homeschool president, and then a regional representative for the homeschool organization. And I just liked the fact that when I said things, that people actually listened, and what I was saying was making sense.
Yeah.
At one point, wow. And I like that feeling, and so I always use that to empower others, because growing up and just especially being people of color, we're just taught to be like those crabs in the bucket, whereas in the basket, I should say, whereas you always try to pull somebody down. And I learned that it's not about being higher than anybody else. Is when you get up there to reach down and pull somebody else up to where you are.
That's right.
And so I learned that, and just through, reading different things in the Bible, and my spirituality always just helped me to reflect how it wasn't about an individual person, but how they can help to better each other as a person, as a community, as Christians.
Amen. Wow. So it's all summed up. When I first met you was about 4 years ago. Wow. 4 years ago I met you. I think, I don't know how we met.
So I think you had heard about Jayden's Voice.
Yes.
You had called me because you was interested in connecting.
Right.
And so I had came out and we had met, and you were telling me about, you were just developing Path to Greatness.
Yep.
And about, your vision at that time. And I was just so excited and just so impressed with the vision that you had. And, my prayers stayed with you, that you could just bring everything that you wanted to fruition.
Right.
So I was just like, wow, this is awesome, especially what you were doing and how you wanted to empower children. And I was definitely on board with that.
And I remember your daughter was part of my PTA Academy in Miles.
Yes. Yes, that was awesome.
Yeah. She obviously got something from that. Obviously got some advice from that. But,
absolutely.
But indirectly, you introduced me to mental health at that time.
Yes.
So I did. So I was like, mental health was kind of like still a taboo thing back then. A couple years, 4 years ago, we started talking. And I really didn't get into it until 2 years later, because I went to therapy 6 years ago. I had bad leadership, I had suicidal thoughts, and then once I had that thought, I went to therapy. Okay. And then around the fall 2018, as mental was getting bigger and bigger, in the community, I was talking about it. I wanted to introduce myself for my curriculum. A lot of times schools weren't even talking about it. Either they weren't talking about my man, or they weren't talking about mental health, because a lot of times I remember that if your mental health is not right, you'll make bad decisions. And a lot of kids didn't know how to address their mental health until they got too late. So I had mental issues all my life. I didn't address it until I got my 30s. About the trauma, about the anxiety, feel like that. So when I I asked God, I'm teaching mental health. I'm not professional, not expert. So what we did was, we did mental health 101, basically talk about the root of mental health, which was talking about taking something that someone told us that was negative, that we kind of accepted it, but we don't have rejected at that time. So, like, I did fifth graders, first time for fifth graders, at a diverse school in Frankfurt, and my first one was mental health, and Mike Burrow came with this idea of doing accept reject. And I had no idea how to do it. I didn't want to break down no PD. I didn't know what it was, but I'm not an expert. But God showed me through him that we can do this. And we basically talk about what people said to us as younger people. As younger, we accepted it, but we know how to just reject those faults. So we talk accept, reject. So a lot of times that people say to us that are negative, but we didn't reject it. We didn't know how to reject those faults. So, and And I thought, but a lot of times I was bullied at some of the things I was negative. I didn't know how to reject those thoughts. So that kind of led me to being depressed, being bullied, and like low self-esteem, low self-worth, and get older. So, and now that's what our focus we're doing because we're trying to provide here for our kids while they're young. Okay, while they're young, because a lot of times we carry that stuff to adulthood and getting bad relationships, having bad jobs, not spiritually connected, end up making bad choices based on what we did address while we were younger. So, and again, you inspired me for what you told me, but your story get on mental health because I think that mental health is very, very important. That's what I've been doing this whole pandemic growing up because this is a mental thing every single day. We miss your kids, you miss the dynamics, you miss things that you don't see every day. No things like say hi to your kids, give kids a high five, and now being alone in this house and dealing with people that support Donald Trump and like dealing with the noise and just the violence going up. It's like so tested and traumatic, you know. And now I think I'm taking trauma courses now. Wow. To address my mental trauma because I want to teach kids trauma. A lot of kids are stuck with trauma while they're young. They're not address it. I'm not saying I'm not gonna be they're gonna be healed from trauma, but at least address it. At least have a conversation with that someone. Now, and I'm a big proponent of getting therapy. Right. I'm a big proponent of that. It's like a lot of times the church told keep it here, keep it inside of the house. You go to therapy, it means you're crazy. You get by the church. That means you'll trust God. That's what I heard growing up. You'll trust God. You know. And now I'm people for therapy because in the day therapy is going to make you better. You know what I mean? That's the thing. Now people, oh, you're in therapy. It's like you crazy, you psycho. No, you could be a normal person trying to get better because you don't want to inflict your pain to the other people.
So just to tap into that mental health piece and how you had, stated about, yourself. And even with myself, I had a breakdown at one point in my life. And at the time, we, being people of color, we live a lot of secrets, and we don't talk about things. And there's a lot of things that we aren't allowed to or we just don't talk about. So at one point, in my life, I had a mental breakdown, and even with that, now living with depression, and it's like what I have to do so that I don't self-sabotage myself, because it's not even about other people saying things, about what I'm hearing and what I'm feeling myself. So just to make sure that I don't self-sabotage, I have to myself wake up in the morning feeling happy, knowing that God is going to bring something special, something that is going to be great into my life. Amen. And when that happens, then I put the emotion to it. Because if not, then I can go into a deep depression because I'm thinking I have to have that reason first, something to happen, and then put the feeling to it. But for my situation, I have to have the feeling first and then wait for the situation to come to it so that then the two can become one. So even with that, and having, my daughter has mental health challenges, and even dealing with her, I had to learn how to even talk to her. Verbiage, conversation, language is so important. Even growing up with her having oppositional defiance disorder, being diagnosed with the ADHD and different things like that. And I had to learn how to not say trigger words is what they call it. So no was a trigger word. So instead of saying, no, you can't do this, I would have to say, yes, you can do it after. And then what it is that she would need to do in order for that to happen. Because once you say no and you trigger that child, then no is like an indefinite word, like it's never going to happen. And then that right there now starts to become this trickle down cycle where it's hard for them to recuperate. It's kind of, it's like a meltdown, like they would have in autism. So there was different words and different phrases that I would have to say things in different ways so that I don't trigger her also. Even with having a conversation with her, my daughter would always say, oh, Mom, you're doing too much. And I didn't understand what that meant at first until, I had to think about it. So now what we do is when she calls, I said, okay, before we start, what's my role in the conversation? Am I listening? Am I talking? Do you want advice? You know, so that way I'm not doing too much. Because as parents, our role is we're naturally nurturers. So we want to always fix our children's problem. And they don't want to be fixed because sometimes they don't think that they are broken. But the situation is that how can I work in harmony with what you're trying to do to help you to be successful or reach the point that you're trying to get to? And with that, just identifying your role in the conversation or identifying your role with whatever you do. And my daughter also, she deals with impulsivity. I deal with impulsivity. I'll say that. So with that, we play a game which I call fast forwarding. So what we do is when she says she wants to do something, and I might not think that that's the best idea or the best thing to do. So the first thing I want to do is I want to validate it. And validating doesn't mean that I'm saying, yes, that's correct to do. But I'm saying, yes, I can understand why you feel like that's what you should do. And then once I validate it and we fast forward and say, okay, so if you were to move forward with whatever you want to do, let's say she's upset with someone and I'm going to go over there and I'm going to bust the windows out. I'm just giving an example. And I'm like, okay, let's say you do bust the windows out. Now let's fast forward. What's going to happen moving forward? What's going to happen to your child? What's going to be the outcome for you? What are all of the things that could happen if you do this? And once we think about those things and reflect on it, and then she's like, well, I'm not trying to do all of that. And I said, okay, so what exactly are you trying to do? And once we realize what it is that she really is trying to do, now we'll brainstorm, because she's an adult now.
Right.
We'll brainstorm different options on how she can effectively accomplish what it is that her goal is to do. And even with regardless to whether your child is a youth, adolescent, or an adult, we always want to respect them as a person.
Right.
You know, because even as an adult and being a mother, the first thing we want to do is tell them what to do. Don't do that, that's stupid. Or don't do that. And we don't want to shame or blame or judge. So the thing is that what we always want to do is keep in mind, how are you feeling about this? And how did you get to this feeling? And help me help you to feel the way that you want to feel, if you know how you want to feel. So just like asking thought-provoking questions is so important for that. And then you're helping them to grow, because there may be a time that I'm not there, because in my last job, when as a family support specialist, and I used to fly from state to state to state, and I wasn't home a lot. And there was a lot of times I might have been in another state and she's calling me because she's now having a meltdown or she's in a crisis, and where she needs me to be tangible, to be there, and I can't. Or if I'm in a meeting and we can't fast forward, I need her to learn how to do the process on their own, so that way they can just think about it and say, okay, what's going to happen next? So that's why everything in life is not considered as a loss, but a learning experience.
Right.
So that way, when things happen, even if it doesn't turn out the way you want it to, you learn that, so that the next time, if there is a next time, you can learn from what you did the last time and say, I'm not going to repeat that. Let's try something different this time.
Wonderful. Wow, that was, well, we're watching that, learn something new about that. So that's a blessing. That's learn something new every day about. And what was, you said, impulsivity?
Impulsivity.
What is that?
So impulsivity is, let's say I just got paid and I'm like, wow, now I'm looking on the internet and I see this dress and I know I had the money. So instead of saying, I have to pay my electric bill, my gas bill, my water bill, I have to pay my car note, I have to make sure there's food in the refrigerator, I'm going to say, because I know there's money there, I'm just going to go out and buy that. And if the bills don't get paid, they don't get paid. So you're not actually putting things into perspective or prioritizing what needs to be done and what you want. So you have to prioritize your needs from your want. But when you're impulsive, that goes all out the window.
Wow.
It's just about what you want at that time.
At that moment. Wow. That's a conversation right there. So, Wow, the time go by fast, crazy.
Yes.
So what is next for you? What's next?
Oh my goodness. So I'm just living right now every second for the second. And I just believe that if God brings something into my life, that He's going to give me the tools to be able to be successful. And I'm always going to pray for His Holy Spirit to direct me. Amen. So it's not on my strength, but always on God's.
Okay. And so 2 more questions. What advice would you get to mothers who are children that are autistic, and also what advice would you get to them now as we go through this pandemic, and what ways they can help their child, and also how people can contact you?
So with parents that have children that have autism, the first thing is to do research. Find out as much as you can. Also, make sure you have a support system. Who can you talk to? Because you're going to spend a lot of time making sure being a caregiver for that child, but you can't lose yourself in the process. So make sure you have someone that you can talk to that's going to make sure that you're caring for yourself in the process. Sure. Because self-care is first and foremost in anything. And it's like, the analogy that they give about being on a plane. Your oxygen mask on first before you can help anybody else.
That's right.
So definitely remember to breathe, because things can get overwhelming very quickly. And even through different things, talk it through. When your child's having a meltdown, it's okay. It's okay. So a lot of times growing up, when I was younger and my son would have a meltdown, the first thing I always thought about was, what are people thinking? I would get embarrassed. And I got to the point where it's finally like, okay, if you're going to look, can you help me? So it's not about looking, it's about help. And that's what I always just say. If you see someone and their child might be acting a way that may seem inappropriate to you, it might not be because that child's defiant. It may be something else happening at that time. But even though majority of the time they'll probably say no, but just go over and say, are you okay? Can I help you? Is there anything that I can do? Opposed to just looking or being judgmental, because it's not about being judgmental, and it's not about shaming or blaming or saying, look at her, why she don't do this and that. If you think you know something better, then offer support to that person, So that's the advice that I give, like to onlookers or to others. And to that parent, just make sure that you have a support system, that you continue to breathe. If you have a spirituality, tap into that, grow your relationship with God, and just make sure that, you have a voice, and that your voice and your choices are being heard in the process.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah, ask for help, and support. They make sure the people that you support are supporting you, especially things like this. And we all need to support it, and that's peace is very, very important as well.
So my email.
Yeah, you have people contact you.
Yeah, so my son and I, we have a support group for families that are impacted by autism, and it's called Spectrum Success 911. And so our email is spectrumsuccess911@gmail.com. So you can email me there if you want to reach out, or if you just want to, because I do parent coaching, and I also, just provide support to families or to new parents or to parents that might need support, or just someone who's like-minded that know what they're going through and that can talk and express empathy and not sympathy to them.
Man. Empathy to sympathy. Wow. Wow, that's deep right there. That's deep. So, again, thank you so much to be part of our show.
Thank you for asking.
Yeah, because it's been a long time coming. I'm asking. Yes. So, I was trying to get you a couple years ago, but you was in Arkansas. So,
yes.
So, thank you for supporting me. Thank you for just encouraging me. The feedback you give me in terms of being positive with the posts like that. End of the day, we try other people. That's it. We have a ton of negativity. There's so negative going on in the world. We gotta be more positive. And especially at a time like this, Again, thank you so much for being part of our show. For those who've been watching, thank you so much for watching. I hope you can watch the playback as well on Facebook Live, Instagram Live. Please support us. Share the video. Watch it. Give us some notes. We celebrate 2 years of this platform that God's called me to do. And if you want me to guest on my show, please let me know, because we got some stuff coming up. And again, thank y'all so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Be safe. Self-care. Meditate. Write down, plan what you're going to do next week, and figure out what you're doing. Figure out what a need is for a want, and figure out what's good for you. And in the day, it's about pleasing God, not people. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday, and God bless.
Thank you. Okay. Are we done?
Yep.
Awesome. All right. Well, I hope